Doordarshan, India's public service broadcaster, presents stories and documentaries from Goa, celebrating legends and legacies from India's beautiful state, where East meets the West, with art and culture at its best.
एशियांतली पयली संग्रहालय म्युझियम ऑफ क्रिश्चन आर्ट जी माणकुल्या गोंयांत आसा ती एक दुर्मीळ क्रिस्ती कलेचे वस्तूंचो कोजिनो 16व्या शेंकड्यांत सावन मोदल्या 20व्या शेंकड्यांचो जावन आसा. ही जोयती वन भूतकाळ जी आयज मेरेन हाजीर आसा तुमकां दाखोवंक येयात आमचे बरोबर. हो गोंय आनी दमाव मा धर्म प्रांतांतलो प्रकल्प जाका मोका ह्या मोठ्या नांवान वळखतात तो क्रिस्ती कलेच्या वस्तूंचो एकमेव पुंजो ज्यो धर्मीक दबाज्यांक आनी स्वता वापरपाच्यो आंकलेल्यो आसात तें दाखयता. हे आर्ट ऑब्जेक्ट उंचल्या दर्ज्याच्या गोंयच्या आनी भारताच्या उपखंडांतल्या कलाकारांनी रचल्यात आनी त्या खातीर 1-2 कलाकारीच्या तोरांचो सुमेळ जाका केरीतपणी भारतीय पोर्तुगेज कला म्हूण पाचारपांत आयल्या. ह्या संग्रहालयान चडश्यो कलेच्यो वस्तू गोंयच्या इगर्जेंतल्यान तशेंच लोकां कडल्यान उसण्यो मेळोवपांत आयल्यात आनी कांय लोकांनी एकमेव क्रिस्ती कलेच्यो वस्तू हे दायज फुडले पिळगेक सांबाळून दवरूंक दान केल्यात. 5व्या झाडां मदें आदल्या गोंयच्या मोंतसांतो वो होली हिल जंय जोग फामाद 16व्या शेंकड्यांतल्या बॉन जेजू बाजिलिकेंत जंय सान फ्रांसीस जावेराच्या रेलिको आसात जाका गोंयचो सायब म्हूण पाचारतात हाच्या शेजाऱ्या वाठारांत 16व्या शेंकड्यांतल्या सांत मोनिका इगोर्जींत हे म्युझियम ऑफ क्रिश्चन आर्ट स्थापीत केलोलें आसा. आदलें गोंय एक सुंदर वाठार जंय दोलते माड तुळसोली सोबिताय वाडयता. विशाल आनी शांत मांदोवी न्हंय जी दिवा जुमेक पार करून उत्तर दिशेन व्हांवता तेच न्हंयचे देगेक हो गांव आसा. हो जागो जो पुर्तुगेजाची राजधानी आसली ताका इश्तांत इंडिया पुर्तुगेजा म्हणटाले. युनेस्कोन ताका जगाच्या दायजाचो जागो म्हूण दर्जो दिला. हांगा फामाद यादोस्तीक आनी वर्साच्या वर्सा ओजार आनी भोंवडेकार भेट दितात. मोका सुरवातीक 17व्या शेंकड्यांतल्या पयसुल्या दक्षिण गोंयांत आसलेल्या राशोल सेमिनारीन स्थापलोलो. 1994 वर्सान त्या काळा वेळो राष्ट्रपती डॉ. शंकर दयाल शर्मान ताची उक्तावणी केलोली. उपरांत 2002 वर्सान ते आयज मेरेन ती आसा त्या ठिकाणेर हाडल्या. आयज ती इतिहासाच्या केंद्रीत जाग्यार ताल्लोली आसा.
But along with it, it was a dream which has come true. That's what it was. Before 94, there were voices already stating something is to be done to protect the treasures.
नवी स्थापलोली इमारत जानेवारीच्या 23 2002 वर्सा तेन्नाचो गोंयचो राज्यपाल श्री मोहम्मद फजल हाणें ताची उक्तावणी गोंयचो आदलो मुखेलमंत्री सर्गेस्त मनोहर पर्रीकार हांच्या हाजेरीन केलोली. गोंय दमावचो आसपीस एमिरेटस भोवमानेस राऊल गोन्साल्विसान इमारतीचेर आशिर्वाद घातलोलो. सांत मोनिका कॉव्हेंट जंय आतां ही संग्रहालय आसा ताका वस्तुशिल्पशास्त्राचें आनी इतिहासीक म्हत्व आसा. हो कॉव्हेंट 17व्या शेंकड्यांत बांदलोलो आनी एशियांतलें तें पयलें आनी सगळ्या वन व्हडले माद्रींचे ठिकाण जावन आसलें. सांत मोनिकाची इगर्ज जाका द चॅपल ऑफ द वीपिंग क्रॉस म्हूण पाचारपांत येता तो कॉव्हेंताचो एक अखंड भाग जावन आसा. ही इगर्ज कॉव्हेंताच्या दक्षिणे भागांत उरता आनी ती भोव उंच सुमार 3 माळ्यांची इतली तिका उंची आसा. आकारान तळमाळो 350 स्क्वेअर मिटर्स आनी पोटमाळो 150 स्क्वेअर मिटर्स आसा जो ओमुलादेक पुर्विल्ल्या काळांत आनी कलेच्या उत्कृश्टींत उबो आसा. जंय आदल्या काळांत व्याज मारल्या सारकें दिसता जो काळ आतां पडटला पूण अजून जीव आसा. मोका भारतांतल्या हेर म्युझियमा परी न्हय, कित्याक तो दिपकावपी राजकारणान बदल हाडपी जावन आसा जे ताच्या आंखणींत दिसून येता. भितर सोदतांच तुमची नदर एक बुलोवपी घालपी सेंटर पिसाचेर वेता. एक कोडेकांत आनी कलाकृतीचो आविष्कार 17व्या शेंकड्यांतलो टॅबर्नकल आनी मॉन्स्ट्रान्स भितर सोदतेल्यांक दिपकायता.
We have the pelican bird perched on the globe. It's made entirely in silver on wood. So the monstrance is in the chest cavity of the pelican and the tabernacle is in the globe. Why the pelican? The pelican was used a lot in medieval Christian art as a depiction and to show the similarity with what Christ did by sacrificing his life on the cross. So here we have the depiction of a pelican who's piercing her chest and feeding her baby pelicans.
मोदल्या काळांत प्राणजिविताचो वापर करूंक एक सादारण संवय आसली जी 17व्या आनी 18व्या शेंकड्यांपासून चालू उरली. क्रिस्ताची वृत्ती पाणकोळी सुकण्याच्या वृत्तीक चोर करपाची पद्दत क्रिस्तांपणाच्या भोव आदल्या शेंकड्यांपर्यंत चालू आसली. रुपे आनी लाकूड वापरून शिल्पकलेच्या वस्तूक दोन वेगळे भाग जोडलेले आसात. बुन्यादी वाटकुळो भाग लाकडाचो जाका रुपयाचे कवर आसा आनी ताका टॅबर्नकल दवरपाक ताच्या फाटल्यान कांच आसा. ताची कूड, ओड्डे आनी पाकट्याचे पाकां तशेंच ताचे शेंकरे आनी तोंच आनी दोन पाणकोळीची पोरां इतली बारीकसायेन कांतयलेली आसा ती ताची तोखणाय केल्या शिवाय रावंक जायना.
This piece was originally made for the convent of Santa Monica in the 17th century and would be used for special occasions such as the Maundy Thursday celebration.
आनी एक मौन बुलोवपी दाखोवणेचो भाग 17व्या शेंकड्यांतली मार्फींची जीसस द गुड शेपर्ड ही मुर्ती जावन आसा. बालका जेजू एक बरो गोंवळी कसो दाखयलोली मुर्ती चड घुसपा गोंडलाची भारतीय पुर्तुगेज क्रिस्तांवपणांत जावन आसा. प्रतीकवादाची बोल फकत बालका कोर्ट दिवन थांबना. एक तरणाटो मेंढरो राखणो जो मेंढऱ्या लोयेन नेसलोलो जाचे भोंवतणी मेंढरे उडक्यो मारताले आनी एक ताच्या खांद्यार बसलोलो पूण जे तरेन फातरांचे आसून केला ताचे आंखणींचेर आसा. हातूंतल्यान चोड सोम्या कृष्णाक लागू करूंक जातात ह्या भारतीय देवतेक जाका विष्णूचो अवतार कसो मानतात जो सांबाळपी जावन आसा. वयल्या पाटली वेल्यान एक तोंड भायर सोदता जाच्या तोंडांतल्यान जिविताचें उदक भायर सरून तोस्तान व्हांवता. मोदल्या पाटलीचेर मेंढरे चोरवाक लागल्यात आनी पोंच्या बागांत दिसता एक ग्रोटो जो पवित्र पेनिटंट इजिप्ताची सांत मारयेक आसरो दिता. बाळूक जेजूची आनी एक मुर्ती दिसता जांतून तो पाळण्यांत आसा, हाताक मास्कोतां आनी पांयांक पांयजोणां घालून. ती बाल कृष्णाची मुर्ती सारकी दिसता.
So you see this figure of baby Jesus carved in ivory with bracelets and anklets and waistband. Very strong resemblances to Krishna in a cradle. And there was this whole tradition in the past when the bride would go to her husband's house, her mother would offer her this infant Jesus as part of her wedding trousseau in the hope that she would have a male child as soon as she was married. So that is another significant object that we have in the museum.
20व्या शेंकड्यांतल्या मोदल्या लुकांतल्या आंकवार मारेची व निर्मला माताची मुर्ती आसा. तिची विचित्र दाखोवणी क्रिस्तांव आनी हिंदू धर्माचे जुळणेचे शैलेन केलोली आसा. आंकवार मायेक साडी न्हेसून एका चंद्रकोलाच्या चंद्रिमांचेर उबी आनी एका साळकेंतल्यान उदेता अशी दाखयलेली आसा. हेर वस्तू तुवें मांडलेल्यो आसा ती चित्रां, लाकडाच्यो आनी मार्फींच्यो मुर्त्यो, लुगटां, पुस्तकां, मोलादीक धातू आनी गोर वस्तू आस्पावता.
The museum focuses on highlighting the Indian influences on Christian art. Here we have an example of the infant Jesus, Saviour of the world. See here, it's made in silver. It has this vestment with embroidery which resembles the Zardozi embroidery that was very famous and is famous in India. So you see the Indian elements in the embroidery. And then the base of this sculpture again, which has the half human, half coiled body, the Naga. Here in this example of the chalice and paten, we see a gilt silver chalice, and looking closely you will see bells on the chalice. In this museum are cruets, again liturgical utensils that are used during the celebration of the Mass. These containers were meant to store wine and water.
भारतीय पुर्तुगेज खोलेविशीं बारीकसाणेन म्हायती दिवपाक म्युझियम ऑफ क्रिश्चियन आर्टान एक बरे मांडावळीन घडलोली कॅटलॉग तयार करून दवरलेलो आसा. 20व्या शेंकड्याच्या उसरां जायते भारतीय पुर्तुगेज पवित्र कलेच्यो वस्तू आंतरराष्ट्रीय कलेच्या दोंड्यान गैर कायदेशीर विक्रेक गेल्यो. हांगा तयार केलेले आर्टिफॅक्ट्स हांगासरले नांत जावंक लागले आनी ते कलेच्या दोंडेकारांच्या हातांत पडले. गोंयच्या इगोर्सां लागीं आनी गोराब्यां लागीं असल्यो इतिहासीक म्हत्वाच्यो वस्तू दवरपाक सुरक्षा ना म्हूण आर्कायव्साच्या संचालकान हाचेर उपाय घेवंक आनी असल्यो वस्तू सोदूंक आनी सांबाळ करूंक सुचयलें.
Dr. Curator was director of the archives. He wrote a letter to the Archbishop Gonsalves to express his extreme desire that the church does something to preserve the objects, some steps to be taken, and the government would support whatever way.
मोका प्रकल्प हो गोंयच्या फामाद कार्टुनिस्ट आनी कलाकार सुर्गेस मारियो मिरांडा हाची येवजण जावन आसली. हो प्रकल्प पूर्ण करूंक 8 वर्सां लागलीं.
But then when the movement started with our dreamer Mario Miranda, who was a good friend of Gulbenkian Foundation, through them there was a correspondence exchange with Archdiocese, the Archbishop, expressing the need to start something.
1986 वर्सान मा दोन प्रांतांचे वतीन मारियो मिरांडान एक खासगी संस्था कार्लोस गुल्बेंकियन फाउंडेशन हांकां ही गोंयच्यो मोलादीक कलेच्यो वस्तू इबाड जायत आसात आनी शेणोत आसात आनी ह्यो वस्तू सांबाळून दवरपाची उर्जेंत गरज आसा म्हूण कुलीत केले. गुल्बेंकियन फाउंडेशनान ह्या प्रकल्पाक येवकार दिलो आनी गरज तितलो तेंकोय दिलो.
The objective was the preservation for posterity of this particular art form, and more than anything else is to create awareness amongst the Goans of the value of this treasure that we had.
असल्या एकमेव कलाकृती सांबाळून दवरल्यार लोकांच्या मनांनी आनी काळजांनी गोंयच्या दायजाचो मोग रिगतलो आनी गांवांनी आपले इगोर्जांतल्यो आनी घरांतल्यो मोलादीक वस्तू आसात ते सांबाळून दवरपाक तांकां स्फूर्त मेळटली.
There was a Maria Elena Mendes Pinto. She was a museologist with Gulbenkian, very senior person. And when she went round looking for objects which she considered suitable for preservation and for the museum, she decided that they would have to fit within, they would have to meet certain criteria. And the criteria was not only antiquity or their exquisiteness or the art form, but she also wanted to have every object to be distinguished in one particular way, and that distinguished was that she wanted an Indian contribution to a Western object. So there was a fusion between East and West, or the symbiosis of two cultures.
ह्या प्रकल्पाची उदरगत जाता म्हणसर जायतो वावर करचो पडलो. कारभारी समिती घडोवन हाडची पडली. हे समितीन सोद वावर केलो आनी तातूंतले चड म्हत्वाच्यो वस्तू कुशीन काडल्यो आनी तांची पद्दतशीर वळेरी तयार केली. हातूंतल्यो कांय वस्तू भारतीय पुर्तुगेज क्रिस्ती कलेचे उत्कृश्ट नमुने आसले. हे समितीन फावो तसलो जागो सोदून काडपाचें काम, आंकणी आनी डिस्प्ले केसीस रचपाचे आनी संग्रहालयांत खंयच्यो वस्तू दाखोवणी करून दवरपाचें निमाणें वेंचप करूंक आनी पुंजेचो सांबाळ करूंक केलें.
There was a flooring above which had collapsed, and that was the domain of hundreds of pigeons who left their droppings. So we had loads of manure on the floor, and anyone who came and saw that and said, "We're going to have a museum here," they would have said, "Are you mad?" And that's exactly what we were called, mad, for having. Gulbenkian came around and said, "You can't have a museum here. Look at this place. It's a dump." But architects are architects. So before Arminio, we had another man like him, Souza, who said, "I'll do it. We'll change the place." You see, we had available to us at that stage, we made contact with one particular person, Miguel Matias, a well-known international restorer. So we contacted him and said, "Hey, have a look at this place. Can you do something?" And he said, "Yes, well, this is a great place to work." So then we worked on the Archbishop. Said, "Why don't you let us have this place?" And which he did. And then we approached the government. As you heard Father say that Mr. Parikar was very partial to us, to the museum, because he could see that we were men of business, that whatever we set to do, we would do.
30 metr वयर आसले पाके फकत 2 माणसांचेर दवरलेले आनी पडोंक पावलेले. हाचे काम करतना सारखे सांबाळून करचें पडलें.
So these pillars earlier were supporting what they called the choir loft, which was the space occupied by the choristers' nun. So it was a way for them to be, occupying sections of the building without actually having to interact with the public. And these pillars were, at that time, in the first restoration, 2002, it was decided to preserve these pillars. They were braced together with a system of a gantry beam. And on the gantry beam were also fitted lights. So the whole system at that time supported the pillars and made the pillars structurally stable. When we stepped in to do this, it was decided that the pillars were going to be were going to be retained, but the whole system of gantry, supports were to be removed. And so therefore, if you see, the pillars continue today, but we have done a different kind of a bracing where we have tied the pillars to the adjoining structural beams and slabs which are available.
म्युझियम ऑफ ख्रिश्चन आर्ट ह्या संग्रहालयाच्या निमतान इतिहासाचे आनी दायजाचे महत्व आसलोली 450 वर्सांची इगोर्ज जी संत मोनिकाच्या कॉव्हेंतान आसली ती दुरुस्त केली. ही इगोर्ज आर्किओलॉजिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया हे सरकारी संस्थे खाला आसा. आयज ही दुरुस्त केलेली इगोर्ज तोडण्याच्या पंगडान 5 वर्सांचो कुटीन वावर केला आनी ही ताची गोवाय जावन आसा. तिचो विस्तार दायजाचे संबंधीत गोडण्या आनी प्रदर्शनां करपाक एक बरो जागो जाला. हांगा सेक्रेड म्युझिक कॉन्सर्टूय करपाक हो बऱ्यांतलो बरो जागो आसा.
This place offers a unique ambience for culture. See that we have here the Museum of Christian Art, and the acoustic conditions in this church are fantastic, exceedingly good. And all the conductors who performed in Goa, always they dreamt of coming and performing in the Church of Santa Monica because of this height and all the things. I am not going to speak of that, but the conditions are fantastic. So that is our journey of performance will culminate with the performance at the Museum of Christian Art.
Singing in this chapel of Santa Monica has always been an amazing experience. It's the setting, the acoustics, and somehow we always feel good. And with Santiago and the Goa University Choir, we had opportunities that we will not forget.
2008 वर्सांत दोतोर एमिलियो रुई वेळार गुलबेंकिन फाउंडेशनाचो तेन्नाचो वडील जेन्ना भेट दिवंक आयलोलो तेन्ना मोका सुदरावपाचो निर्णय घेतलो. दोतोर विलारान म्हणलें की ही संग्रहालय भोव सुंदर आसा पूण तो काळा भायर आसा आनी त्या पासत फाउंडेशन तो श्रेणी सुदारीत करपाक जाणकारांचो आदार बसयलो.
Area that we have been, actively engaged is basically the space, the museum space. Yeah? There were niches which we could make out when we opened out the plaster. That there was a joint between the old and the new masonry, and we decided to explore it. And when we explored it, we found out that there was a whole space beyond there, and it was decided that we were going to open it. So when we opened it, and we started scraping off the lime which had, been coated over the years, we discovered that there was this beautiful, wall not paintings really, but these wall decor, which could be restored. And if you look at it, there are two locations over here which we have managed to recover and we have managed to restore.
महत्वाच्या श्रेणीत सुदरपाचो प्रकल्पाचो वावर 2017 वर्सांत सुरू जालो. ह्या वावरांत स्ट्रक्चरल रेस्टोरेशन आनी म्युजियोग्राफीक लेआउट आस्पायलो. स्ट्रक्चरल रेस्टोरेशन करतना इगोर्ज 17व्या शेंकड्यांतलो सांता मोनिकाचो कॉव्हेंट आनी तिचे इतिहासीक महत्व मनांत दवरून केलें. हें करतना ताचो वयलो माळो इतिहासीक गायन मंडळाचो माळोय दुरुस्त केलो. आतां तो जागो एक व्ह्यूइंग गॅलरी म्हूण वापरून येता. थंय जावन आख्खो संग्रहालयाचो देखावो आनी मुखेल आल्तार दिसता. 6 शेंकड्या आदीं थंयसर माद्र्यो रावताल्यो.
Originally, when the cloistered nuns lived in this convent, they used to use this space to participate in the masses. So they had 2 levels, the ground floor and a first floor that was resting on these columns, which today have nothing, because possibly the floor was a wooden floor and must have deteriorated and collapsed at a point when there was no one living in this convent between the later part of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Today, as part of the upgradation project that the museum undertook, we have restored one portion of the first floor, which gives the visitors an understanding of how the first floor must have been utilized in the past by the nuns. So they would be standing up on that level and participating in the mass. As we go upstairs, we get a better glimpse of how the nuns would have participated in the masses from the first floor and without the people in the church having to see them.
My name is Sonia. I've come from Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh, and my son-in-law brought me here to see the church, to see Old Goa. I'd never been here before, although I've come to Goa many times, and it's a fascinating place. I hadn't seen such old Christian historical statues and beautiful churches before. So yeah, kudos to whoever's put this together, to the organization that's taking care of it. And I think it's wonderful for tourists to come and enjoy these old spaces. Thank you.
कांय महत्वाच्यो संग्रहाची जतनाय घेवपाच्या संबंधान मोकान इंडियन नॅशनल ट्रस्ट फॉर आर्ट अँड कल्चरल हेरिटेज न्यू दिल्ली हांचोय आदार घेतला. संग्रहालयाच्या उदरगतीचें काम करपाक इंडियन मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कल्चर, द गुलबेंकिन फाउंडेशन, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कल्चर इन पोर्चुगल आनी आर्चडायसिस ऑफ गोवा अँड दमान हांची आर्थीक मजत घेतली. कांय भारतांतल्या आनी देशा भायल्यो कंपनीन आर्थीक आदार दिला.
We found specialists who could use plaster made of mud, lime, jaggery, and the whole place in and out was replastered as it was done originally. When we looked at the floor, there was a red cement floor. and there was one part that was damaged. So we had to look at it, and that's it. When we looked at it, we found there was something below. And lo and behold, we found the original stone. Now that is special stone. You can't get that stone, only is available in one place in Basin. We couldn't find more for this place, you see, but that is the original stone. So we're back to the original floor. But they took off the pulpit. It was very ornate wooden pulpit here with steps going up here this way. When they took it out, they found that. That was the original pulpit. So we said, well, if there's a stone pillar there, there must be an entrance. So we found the entrance.
नव्या संग्रहालयाच्या लेआउटान वस्तू खास कोरलेल्या काशीनी दाखोवनेक दवरल्यात. भारतीय पुर्तुगेजाच्या कलेच्या इतिहासाची बरे तरेन समजुणी मेळचे खातीर कलाकृती काला प्रमाणे मांडलेले आसात.
Biggest challenge is the humidity levels within this space, and we have come across visitors who said why isn't the space temperature controlled with an air conditioning, but we need to realize first and foremost that the objects have been made here and made 400 years back or 300 years back. They have adjusted to our climatic conditions, so now we can't take them out from these conditions and put them in the prescribed air conditioned norms. What we can control is the excessive humidity. To do that, we have in these specially made display cases, we control it with art soap, which takes care of the excessive humidity conditions, and which we need to keep checking on, and our teams keep checking on periodically.
मोकाचो मुखेल हेतू एक शिक्षणाचो आनी सोद वावराचो केंद्र कसो पोरगोट करपाचो जावन आसा. ह्या म्युझियमाचो श्रेणी वाडोवपाचो हेतू हांगा भेट दितल्यांक ऑनलायन आनी ऑफलायन माध्यमांतल्यान एक शिक्षणीक प्रदर्शन मेळून दिवपाचो प्रयत्न जावन आसा.
Over the years, we have received people from all over the world, and everybody is astounded with, of course, the collection because of the Indian influences on Christian art, and it's something that they've not encountered in the rest of the world wherever they've traveled, and they are highly appreciative of having a quality of museum which is not commonly seen in the rest of the country. So always praises for the collection as well as the high standards we have tried to maintain in the museum.
ज्येष्ठ नागरिकांक आनी खेरीत गरजो लागतल्यांक संग्रहालयान चेअर लिफ्ट आनी एअर सवलत्यो दवरलेल्यो आसात. केन्नाय म्युझियम म्हणल्यार इतिहास पळोवपाचो एक वाजेचो जागो कसो आसता, पूण मोकान हांगा एक वेगळे तरेचे वातावरण तयार केलोलें आसा, जंय भेट दितल्यांक उर्बा हाडटा. असलें वातावरण संवसारांत आनी खंयच दिसचें ना. मोका क्रिस्ती कलेच्यो कार्यावळी रोचतना एक कॉन्झर्वेशन सेंटर दायज सांबाळपाची मांडणी आपल्या जाणकारांच्या केंद्रांतल्यान स्थापूंक सोदता.
We have to keep dreaming, and we dream now of establishing a center for conservation, because I think that's very much required in Goa, which has a large number of art objects, not only in our churches but in our homes, which need attention, and we would want to train people and set up this conservation center so that we can look after our heritage and have a space where this can be looked after and cared for. So that is the plan that we have and dream that we have for the future, as well as set up a knowledge center which will have a library, as well as to encourage researchers for new writing in Indo-Portuguese art and history.
रोमा उदेंतीचे शार गोंय हांगा येयात आनी ओ सोबीत म्युझियम ऑफ क्रिश्चियन आर्ट पळयात आनी गौरव येताना आदल्या काळा वयल्या संवसाराचो एक सर नासलेलो ओ प्रतिमुग्रास घेवन गौरव वचात.
Doordarshan, India's public service broadcaster, presents stories and documentaries from Goa, celebrating legends and legacies from India's beautiful state, where East meets the West, with art and culture at its best.